Welcome to the RDFox Getting Started Guide. In this video, we'll show you how to start RDFox in the web console, how to import data, run your first query, explore the results of that query, and how to delete it all, leaving you with a blank slate. To follow along with this tutorial, you'll need an RDFox license, RDFox downloaded and running, and our Getting Started Guide, which you can find in the documentation. All the relevant links can be found in the description below. If you don't have RDFox up and running, don't worry. Our last video covered how to download it and get it started for both Windows and for Mac. Before jumping straight into the console, first we have to start it through a terminal. With RDFox already running, this is done easily by typing the command endpoint start, making the console available at the default port 12110. Now, you can leave the terminal behind and head to your browser of choice. Up in the search bar, type localhost:12110/console. And just like that, you're in the RDFox Web Console. Now that we've got the console up and running, we'll need some data to practice with. Head over to our documentation site that's linked below and navigate to section 3, Getting Started. Scroll down to where it says Download Data.ttl. Click on it and begin the download. Feel free to refer to this documentation at any time, as all of the steps we'll be talking about today are covered here in much more detail. With that, we're all set up and ready to start using RDFox. Let's start by creating a data store. I'm going to call it Family in line with the documentation. If you're new to RDFox, you can ignore the advanced settings for now, because they really are for advanced users. You can come back to these when you're a bit more familiar with it. Once you're happy with that, click Create Data Store, and now you'll be asked to import your content. Click and drag the data.ttl file that you just downloaded, and you'll see that it's being added to the default graph. Named graphs are supported, but we'll cover this in a separate video, as it's a bit more of an advanced topic. For now, let's leave it as is. Click Add Content, and OK to finalize the process. Immediately, you'll be presented with the default query. This query is made up of a few core components: the select keyword, which determines the type of query, the output variables, denoted by a question mark, that describe what will be returned by the query, the where clause, that contains the pattern that we're looking for, and finally, the pattern itself, which in this case describes a triple as shown by the three variables S, P, and O. Simply put, this query selects and returns three variables S, P, and O from our data, where they appear as a triple. Now, if we run that query, you can see that every triple in the data has been returned, just like we would expect. RDFox also tells you the number of results and how long it took to return them. Bear in mind that your data doesn't have to be in triples, but if it is, we've added three special variables, S, P, and O, in uppercase. These allow you to access some extra features in the console. There's also a fourth, G, for if you're using named graphs, but we won't worry about that in this video. For example, using these three variables will open up the Construct Explorer, but that's far beyond the scope of this video and something we'll cover in a later tutorial. Now, let's look to download our results. If we click Download and select an extract format, we can see that we're given a range of different options. Some of these are available no matter what, but some are triple specific, such as the N-triple format. Select whatever format you'd like and decide the name of your file. By default, it's simply called Answers. Click Export and the download will begin. Since we haven't actually done anything to our data yet, there's not much point in downloading it, so let's explore the results instead by clicking the Explore Results button. This will take you over to the Explorer view. You can change back and forth between the Sparkle and Explorer views up here at the top. Bear in mind that the Explorer view will not be updated unless you click Explore Results in the Sparkle view, so initially it will not be populated. Within this view, there's a lot you can do to get the most out of visualizing your data. To make things easier, you can zoom in, zoom out, fit to screen, or change the layout. You can also reset to the query results at any time if you're not happy with what you've done. If you are utilizing named graphs, you can select between them here, or even multiple if you'd like to see more than one displayed. And if instead of exploring the results of a query, you'd like to start from a particular node and expand from there, you can do just that by typing its IRI into the start bar. So let's take a look at the graph itself. You'll see some differences in the way information is displayed. Green nodes are classes, purple objects, the lines connecting them predicates, and the smaller ones literals. You can click and drag the nodes around so that they're easier to see. And by right-clicking on any node, you can hide it. You'll see that any node that it was previously connected to now has a little dot in the top right corner indicating that something is hidden. If we now right-click on one of these nodes, you can see the list of its in- and outbound edges. You'll notice that the one we've just hidden is unselected. If you'd like to see it again, simply select the box and click Update. As you can see, it'll then reappear. With more complex datasets, it'll be no surprise that these lists can get confusing. There are two things that can help you. First is the filter where you can start typing and only edges containing those characters will appear. You can also click All, which will select or deselect all of the in- and outbound edges. It should be noted that all of these actions that you take in the Explorer view have no effect on the data itself. They are simply visual and for your own benefit. With that in mind, let's take a look at our first proper query. I've copied this over from section 3.3.3 in the documentation, running queries, and I recommend that you do the same to avoid making any mistakes. You'll see that first we defined a prefix. This appears in the data.ttl file, and it's very important. In other datasets, particularly your own, you'll have to find or define your own prefixes. You might be able to see some parallels in this query to the first default query that we showed before. Again, it's a select query, but this time our output variables are spouse1 and spouse2. And this time, the pattern that we're looking for the query to return is all triples that take the form spouse1 married to spouse2. Remembering that spouse1 and spouse2 are variables, so it can take any value, and married to is a property defined in the data.ttl file. Order by spouse1 simply tells RDFox how it should order the results in the table below. Running this query shows you exactly what you expect. It returns Peter and Lois, the married couple in our data. This time, if we explore the results, you'll see that we're left with just Peter and Lois, and the married to connector. As mentioned before, there's a circle in the top right corner of these nodes indicating that something else is hidden. That's because when we explore the results, we're exploring them in the context of the dataset. That means from here we can expand and ultimately end up with the entire graph again, should we so desire. And as we mentioned before, you can click Reset at any time to restore the view to just the results. Okay, so let's go about resetting everything. Head over to the Sparkle view and click Menu. Then select Delete Content. Make sure you're deleting data from the right graph. In our case, we only used the default graph, so it's one less thing to worry about. Drag and drop your data.ttl file once again and click Delete Content. Then OK. Now, if we run our initial select query, where we select all of the triples in the data, you'll see that it returns nothing because there is nothing left in the dataset. In this case, the same result could have been achieved by selecting Clear All Content under the menu, but there are instances when you would just want to delete a specific part of your dataset. The last thing we want to do in the console is go back to the menu and select Delete Datastore. This, as you might expect, will delete the data store. This cannot be undone, so be careful. Finally, head back to the terminal in which you started RDFox and simply type quit. With that, you've successfully shut down RDFox and you're ready to go again.